in! All in from Rampage. What heart! Unbelievable.
Hey guys, it's Alec Torelli. Welcome back to the Hand of the Day from Conscious Poker. We're breaking down one of the sickest and biggest bluffs in the history of televised poker on the Hustler Casino Live. With the blinds of 501k and a 2k straddle, the action folds down to Rampage in the small blind, who opens to 9k with ace-7 suited. Very standard. Over to hands now in the middle blind with 2 queens, who has a clear 3-bet. This hand is going to want to isolate Rampage in position and not let the straddle call behind, sandwiching hands in between 2 players. If I had to say what Hands was thinking here, he's probably calling to trap the player behind him who'd been very, very active, hoping that that player raises, Rampage calls, and then he could back raise. It's very risky, it's dicey. I think that's what he was thinking if I had to guess, but typically you're going to want to play this hand as a raise. Over to Pav now, who has King 8 offsuit, completes as well, and we go 3 ways to the flop. With a pot of 30k, the flop comes down Queen, Jack, 10 with a flush draw, and Rampage now checks. Hands getting tricky here again, opts to check, really must have been targeting Pav here for a trap. Typically this hand is going to want to bet because you benefit a lot from protection, but I could get behind checking a set of queens in particular just because you block a lot of the top pairs that your opponents are going to continue with. If Hands had instead a set of jacks or a set of 10s, those are much more clear hands to just bet. Over to Pav now, who flops open-ended, decides to take a stab and fires 15k. Back over to Rampage, who has a gut shot and a backdoor flush draw, and an uncapped range, meaning he can have hands like Ace-King, whereas Pav cannot have those hands because he just flatted pre. Rampage opts to use what's called a range advantage, meaning he has the stronger range of hands, and opts to make a raise to 50k. Rampage could also have all the sets, queens, jacks, and 10s, whereas Pav never has those hands because he just flatted pre. Now over to Hands, who's in a very dicey spot, and this is one of the challenges with trapping, is you find yourself in these awkward spots. I think Hands, however, facing a check raise from Rampage, and who has Pav behind, who can still have a straight or a massive combo draw of some kind, I think he has a pretty clear call. He doesn't want to back raise here to 150k because it looks super strong. He's almost over-representing his hand. And then if Rampage jams with a straight, he's in a terrible spot. You don't want to have to fold out your equity with top set, and you don't want to get bluffed off the best hand as well. He makes the call, Pav gets out of the way, and we go to the turn.
Pav's out of there. I mean, Rampage could have ace, king, king 9. I mean, he could have a lot of hands here. It's just a single raise pot.
It comes down to deuce of clubs. Rampage now picks up more equity. He also still has that range advantage. There's a lot more ace-king in his range than Hands, simply because he was the raiser pre, whereas Hands was just the flat caller. There's 16 possible ways to make ace-king, which is very significant on this board. Rampage is also repping hands like King 9, which he could have when he opens in the small blind, and maybe he's going as thin here as 9-8. All this is to say he decides to fire over pot for 175k, which is a bet that I like. Maybe he would shut down here if the turn was a blank, definitely if it's a diamond or the board pairs, but when he picks up more equity and he still has that advantage in the strength of his hand, I like firing again here. I mean, look, if you're going to check raise Queen Jack 10 with a backdoor, and you pick up your backdoor and you don't fire, what are you check raising the flop for? Credit to Rampage for making a big bet and putting Hands in the blender. Over to Hands now, who's a very sharp guy. He knows he's not in a good spot. He knows the story Rampage is telling, which is like, hey, I have a straight. At most, Hands could call here. He can't raise in this spot because although his hand does benefit from protection, the times that he gets it in, he's always going to be very far behind against Rampage, who's going to call with a straight. Credit to Hands for sniffing this out and just making a flat call in position. Let's take a river.
And there's a call, and this would be a disaster if a queen or a jack of clubs somehow rolled off the Rampage.
With a pot of about 500k, the river comes in offsuit 5, and now Rampage has one decision. Does he continue telling the story that he has ace-king or king 9, or does he shut down and give up? The question is, what types of hands does Hands call the turn with, and are those hands going to fold, or are they going to be calling? Well, Hands could have a lot of hands that are going to call the flop and call the turn and fold the river. He can have hands like King 10 of diamonds. He can have Ace 10 of diamonds. He can have 10-9 of diamonds. He can have 9x of diamonds. He can have King X of diamonds. He can also have hands like 2 pairs and sets, all of which are in a terrible spot. Rampage doesn't have a diamond in his hand, which is a great candidate for a bluff because a lot of the hands that Hands is going to call with contain diamonds that are going to be folding. Overall, if Rampage jams here, Hands is in the complete blender. He doesn't beat any of the hands Rampage is value betting with, and most of his hands are bluff catchers at this point, and it's just not a spot where people bluff. Can Rampage do it?
There's absolutely no way that Rampage can know how strong. Hands all in! All in from Rampage! What heart! Unbelievable. 618,000 all in for people that said that his stack might not be in play. He's answered that question. Holy smokes. And he's gonna fold, and Rampage gets it through. Oh my God. Unbelievable.
We got a game!
Wow.
Stevie Hands!
Hand of the weekend.
Overall, if it were me, I'd probably fold here too. The basic question I'd be asking myself is just like, what hands do I beat, and do I beat anything he's value betting? The answer is no. I think we only beat a bluff here, and it's just not a spot that people bluff that often. So Hands doesn't beat that many hands. In a weird way, it's almost better to have something like King Queen here because at least you block King 9 and Ace King, and your opponent's never really shoving a hand in between Queens and King Queen. So in a weird way, I'd rather have a hand like that than have pocket queens to call. Overall, hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to this channel if you're new here. We put out awesome content all the time to help you take your game to the next level. Also visit consciouspoker.com if you like this strategy breakdown I use here. I have a hand reading system that's totally free. It's the exact process I use in all the hands that I play, and I've taught to thousands of clients as well. Download it at consciouspoker.com. Thanks for your support. Let me know your thoughts in a comment below, and I'll see you guys next time on the Hand of the Day.